Hello everyone, this is Mahesh, and today I am going to read you a story from May 2006 issue of Chandamama, the Lifelike portrait. The cremation ground presented an airy spectacle on that dark night. The moon was hidden behind the clouds, and it was drizzling intermittently. The pitch darkness was relieved only by occasional flashes of lightning that lit up the somber scene, causing an airy dance of jerky shadows in the cremation ground. Occasionally, a jackal's spine chilling howl or the blood curdling laughter of some invisible evil spirit cut into the silence that hung like a shroud over the area. Altogether, it was a scene that would strike terror into the bravest heart. But nothing could daunt the intrepid King Vikram. Once again, he made his way to the gnarled tree from which the ancient corpse was hanging. Bones crunched under his feet, and a screeching host rose from the dust in the shuddering frenzy as he marched determinedly ahead. Oblivious to everything but the mission on hand, he brought the hanging corpse down by cutting the rope with his sword. Slinging it astride his shoulder, he had just begun his return journey when the vampire that possessed the corpse said, "O king, what is the motive behind your undertaking this rigorous and dangerous task? Are you trying to undo the effect of an earlier rash act of yours? Often kings pass impetuous orders in the heat of the moment, only to regret later. This is what happened to King Ranadhira of Jayantpur. Listen to his story. The tale the vampire narrated went as follows. Randhira was the king of Jainpur. He was an efficient ruler, all right, but his one fault was his short temper. He would blow his stop at the least excuse and would impose harsh punishment for most trivial of offences. Needless to say, everyone in palace, from ministers to menials, lived in constant fear of incurring the king's wrath. One day the king decided to have his portrait painted. When the news was announced, numerous artists from different lands reached the king's court, volunteering their services for the job. However, the king now made another announcement that shocked one and all. He declared the job is open to anyone who wishes to try. But remember this, if the portrait satisfies me, the artist will be handsomely rewarded. Otherwise, he will be subjected to 10 whiplashes. Knowing the king's irascible nature, most of the artists hesitated to take up the assignment. However, artist Nagavarma expressed his willingness to paint the portrait. He was given two rooms in the palace as his studio and living quarters. The king posed for him every day, and the work made fast progress. Nagavarma put his heart and soul into the job and painted with all the skill at his command. Finally, the work was completed. With great hopes, he took the portrait to the court and ceremoniously unveiled it before the king. Alas, the moment the king's eyes fell on it, his face went red with rage. Chee, is this supposed to be my portrait? What sort of artist are you? Unfortunately for Nagvarma, the rest of the court concurred with the king's opinion and declared that the portrait did not resemble the king at all. The artist was given 10 whiplashes and sent away in ignominy. A few days later, another artist named Vijay presented himself at the court and requested the king, "Your Majesty, kindly give me leave to paint your portrait." The king agreed, and Vijay started work on the painting the same day. A week later, he brought the finished portrait to the king while he was holding his darbar. The king took one look at the portrait and thundered, "What is this? You have the audacity to depict me as looking so cruel? You shall be given not 10 but 20 whiplashes." "Pardon me, Your Highness," interjected Vijay humbly, "but my aim was to draw a realistic portrait. You would observe that a fawn, even while drinking from a lake in a safe place, starts at the slightest sound and looks around with terrified eyes. On the other hand, a tiger, even in repose, has bloodshot eyes and a fierce expression. That is the inherent nature of each of these animals. An artist's aspiration is to capture his natural expression on canvas. How dare you make me look so ugly? Shouted the king. Are you aware of the consequences of displeasing me? I can have you beheaded. I know that, Your Majesty, but an artist is duty bound to be true to his art, and a truthful man need fear no one, said Vijay. Politely but firmly, he went on. But I have one request. Before taking any decision, kindly show this portrait to the rest of the court. I would like to know what they think about it. The king held up the portrait to the assembly and demanded in a furious tone, what is your opinion? Does this picture resemble me? To all those who gazed upon the portrait, it was clear that it was King Ranadhirat to the life, complete with the angry frown, bloodshot eyes, and ruddy visage. However, no one dared to say so for fear of incurring the king's wrath. There was a pin drop silence in the hall. Finally, the aging chief minister spoke up. Your Majesty, I cannot comment on the propriety of the artist who has drawn such a portrait, but I can tell you that as regards likeness, it is perfect. Every detail of your face and your mood have been brilliantly captured by the artist on the canvas. A casual glance at the portrait is sufficient to tell anyone that it represents you. As he finished speaking, a loud murmur of assent rose from hitherto silent assembly. For a moment the king stood dumbfounded. Then he rewarded Vijay with 1,000 gold coins and sent him away. He ordered for the portrait to be hung in his private chamber. From then on, the king would spend some time in front of the portrait as soon as he woke up in the morning. He studied the harsh lines on the face and made a conscious effort to wipe out those lines from his own face. Whenever he lost his temper, the recollection of the portrait would flash in his mind and he would instantly calm down. In this manner, within a few days, the king changed beyond all recognition. He had metamorphosed into a calm, even tempered, and soft spoken person. Then one day he summoned Vijay and asked him to paint his portrait again. O king, now it is not I, but my friend Nagavarma who would paint your portrait. He is a fine painter. Or even if you don't wish to have your portrait painted by him, kindly accept the original portrait he did of you and look at it once again. It portrays you in a serene, majestic attitude. I feel you will find it lifelike now. The king was surprised. He did not know that Vijay was Nagvarma's friend. He sent for Nagvarma's portrait and re examined it. He was astonished to find that it was indeed lifelike. The king summoned Nagvarma and apologized to him and made him his official painter. He also rewarded Vijay handsomely before sending him away. The vampire concluded the story at this point and demanded, O king, isn't King Randhira's behavior inconsistent and self-contradictory? First he found Nagvarma's work substandard and publicly humiliated him for the same. Subsequently, he appreciated the same painting and appointed Nagvarma the court painter on its strength. Doesn't this absurd conduct reflect the king's foolishness? Moreover, why did he honor both the artists in different ways? Wasn't it because he couldn't decide which of them was superior? If you know the answer, speak out. Otherwise, your head would shatter into smithereens. King Vikram calmly answered, King Randhira's behavior is not really inconsistent. Initially, he was an irascible man, but subsequent circumstances reformed his character. At first, he was going to impose a harsh punishment on Vijay too, but the intervention of the old minister and the rest of the assembly forced him to change his stance and reward him instead. Later, as he thought over the matter calmly, he realized that the fault was not in the painting, but in his own nature. If he looked ugly in the portrait, it was because his temper gave him that expression most of the time. So he consciously tried to alter his appearance by not giving in to anger. Now that he no longer resembled a haughty person in the portrait, he wanted a new portrait of himself. On examining Nagvarma's discarded painting, he realized that it depicted him without any of his negative qualities as he now appeared. The reason why his courtiers had failed to recognize the likeness at that time was that they had never seen him in a calm, gracious attitude, but the artist had portrayed him in that attitude using his imagination. And now that the king had deliberately adopted the same attitude, the likeness was clear for all to see. Regarding the question why he honored the two artists differently, it is evident that both were great artists, but while Vijay portrayed his subjects realistically as he saw them, Nagavarma removed the blemishes and depicted an ideal portrait of how the king should be. In honoring both, the king only revealed his intelligence and maturity. On hearing this, the vampire nodded in approval before going off into peal after peal of thunderous laughter. The next moment, he, along with the corpse, moved off the king's shoulder with a jerk and flew back to the ancient tree. King Vikram gave a little sigh as he gazed upon the scene. Then he squared his shoulders and retraced his steps towards the tree.